The story begins by introducing Max, a young man with a troubled past who grew up in the foster care system. A flashback reveals that during his childhood, Max formed an inseparable bond with his foster brother, Luke. They were extremely close, believing their connection was thicker than blood. However, the dynamic changed when Luke left for college. Just a few days after his departure, devastating news arrived claiming that Luke had taken his own life because he could not handle the pressure. This tragedy left Max shattered and created a deep emotional scar that would haunt him for years. In the present day, an adult Max is arrested by police after breaking into a building to spray paint graffiti. His foster father arrives at the station to bail him out but expresses deep disappointment in Max's reckless behavior, noting that Max has changed drastically since Luke's death. The father explains that he has already spoken to the judge to arrange a plea deal. Instead of serving jail time, Max must complete a community service sentence working at an isolated old age community center called The Home. Although Max initially protests, he has no other choice and reluctantly agrees to the terms. Max travels to the facility, which is located far outside the city limits. Upon arrival, he notices an elderly man staring down at him ominously from a fourth-floor window. Inside, he is introduced to two staff members, Lei and Juno, who explain his duties and the strict rules of the establishment. Juno hands him a master key but gives him a stern warning: he is never to enter the fourth floor. She explains that this area is reserved for special care patients and is completely off limits to unauthorized personnel. However, Max is about to discover that this rule exists for a much darker reason. Max begins his work as the superintendent, cleaning various areas of the facility. While working near the swimming pool, he meets a friendly elderly resident named Norma. She looks at him with affection and remarks that he reminds her of someone she once knew. The atmosphere shifts quickly when another woman in the pool suddenly starts bleeding from her head. Max rushes to help the residents out of the water, deeply disturbed by the incident on his very first day. That night, Max struggles to sleep in his new room. He has a nightmare about Luke and wakes up in shock, only to hear a terrifying scream echoing from the floor above him. He notices his door is slightly ajar and quickly shuts it, unsettled by the noise. The next morning, a resident named Lou bangs on Max's door, claiming there is an emergency involving a mess that needs cleaning. Max rushes to help, but upon entering the room, he realizes it was a ruse. The elderly residents have gathered to throw him a surprise welcome party. During the gathering, the residents introduce themselves and greet him warmly. Max is then introduced to Dr. Sabian, the head doctor of the facility. Sabian tells Max that the residents are good people who deserve comfort in their final years. However, the interaction takes a strange turn when Sabian stares intensely at Max and compliments his eyes, calling them large and beautiful. This comment makes Max feel uneasy, but he tries to brush it off as eccentric behavior. Later that night, Max is unable to sleep and wanders into the hallway, where he encounters Norma again. She invites him into her room for a chat, and they begin to bond over their shared feelings of loss. Max notices a unique trinket in her room, and Norma explains that it belonged to a close friend who passed away. She also shows him a torn painting created by her deceased son. She explains that during an argument, her son ripped the painting, and now she keeps the torn piece as a treasured memory. This conversation changes Max's perspective, helping him see the residents as individuals with rich personal histories. The following day, while working on the third floor, Max hears another agonizing scream coming from the forbidden fourth floor. Unable to ignore it any longer, he decides to investigate despite the strict warnings. He picks the lock and enters the restricted area, where he discovers a horrifying scene. Dozens of elderly patients sit in wheelchairs in a filthy room, their conditions far worse than anyone else in the home. Their eyes are bleeding, and they appear to be in a state of severe physical decay. One of the men on the fourth floor notices Max and begins to scream aggressively. The man struggles to stand up and lunges at Max, attempting to attack him. Before Max can react or help, Juno and Lei rush into the room, restrain the patient, and drag him away. They forcibly remove Max from the floor, leaving him shocked by the brutality and neglect he has just witnessed. Dr. Sabian confronts Max immediately after the incident, expressing his disappointment. He reprimands Max for breaking the rules but then adopts a softer, manipulative tone. He tells Max that they know about his troubled past and urges him to use this job as a chance to start over rather than returning to his reckless ways. Max, feeling cornered and guilty, apologizes and promises not to disobey the rules again. However, the images of the suffering patients on the fourth floor continue to plague his mind. Later, Norma approaches Max and mentions she heard about his trip to the fourth floor. Max admits that he feels something is terribly wrong with the patients up there. Norma looks at him with sympathy and says a specific phrase: "A heart knows a heart." She tells him that his good heart is why he feels their pain, but she sternly warns him that he cannot help them. She insists that no one can do anything for those people and advises him to stay away for his own safety. The next day, Max observes a heated argument between Norma and Dr. Sabian. When he later asks Norma what happened, she dismisses it as nothing. Trying to cheer her up, Max presents her with a drawing he made to complete the torn painting of her son. Norma is deeply moved by the gesture and becomes emotional. She repeats the line, "A heart knows a heart," but then her demeanor shifts to fear. She urgently warns Max that something is very wrong at the facility and tells him he needs to run away as soon as possible. Before she can explain further, she spots someone watching them and retreats to her room. Max spends the night awake, analyzing Norma's cryptic warning. When he looks for her the next day, Juno informs him that Norma is unwell and is being monitored in the infirmary. While working in the yard later, Max looks up at the fourth-floor window and sees the same aggressive old man from before. The man is biting his own finger and using the blood to write something on the glass. Suddenly, Norma's body falls from the upper floor, crashing onto the fence right in front of Max. She dies instantly, leaving Max traumatized and shattered by the sudden violence. Police and authorities arrive to handle the situation. Dr. Sabian produces a suicide note allegedly written by Norma, claiming she wanted to end her life to join her deceased son. Max is skeptical and devastated. After the funeral, he speaks with Lou, who was close to Norma. Max asks Lou if he truly believes Norma would kill herself, but Lou seems unsure and grief-stricken. When Max repeats the warning Norma gave him the previous night, Lou suddenly freezes and enters a strange, seizure-like state, muttering, "It's happening again," before snapping back to normal. But the situation is about to become even more mysterious. That night, Max wakes up from another nightmare to find a UV light left in his room. When he switches it on, he discovers a hidden message scrawled on his wall that is invisible to the naked eye: "Find the marked ones." Following this clue, Max takes the UV light to Lou's room while Lou is asleep. He shines the light on the back of Lou's neck and discovers a strange, cross-shaped mark glowing on his skin. This confirmation that something clandestine is occurring pushes Max to investigate further. Max contacts his foster parents via video call to tell them about Norma's death and his suspicions. He tells them he feels a responsibility to help the people in the home. Determined to find answers, Max sneaks into Norma's sealed room to look for evidence. He is caught by Leigh, who threatens to file a police complaint for breaking the rules. Leigh informs him that all of Norma's belongings have been sent to the basement for incineration. Undeterred, Max waits for an opportunity and breaks into the basement to search through the discarded items. He manages to find Norma's trinket and her personal diary before they are destroyed. Reading through the diary, he finds terrifying entries where Norma wrote that Max is in danger. She describes how they come at night with needles and dogs to change the residents, expressing fear that she or Lou would be next. Armed with this information, Max tries to confront Lou, but he finds the old man in a state of madness, punishing himself for Norma's death by pulling out his own teeth. Max stops him and screams for help, and Lou is taken away for treatment by Dr. Sabian. Realizing the doctor is at the center of this, Max searches for Dr. Sabian's history on the internet. He discovers that Sabian was once a celebrated scientist who conducted controversial experiments on the brains of elderly patients but was shunned after a scandal involving eye therapy. As he reads this, pop-up windows begin flooding his laptop screen with a message: "Have you seen the light?" Max clicks on the message, which installs software that opens a private chat with a mysterious woman whose face is distorted by a digital filter. She warns him that he is being watched and that they are coming for him. Moments later, there is a knock at the door, but it is only Juno collecting him for work. Later, Max reconnects with the mysterious woman online. She claims to be the daughter of one of the residents and tells Max a complex story about a government conspiracy. She alleges that the facility is funded by the government to conduct dangerous gene trials and experiments on the elderly because they are seen as expendable. She urges Max to gather solid evidence to expose the operation. Trusting this new ally, Max orders and installs spy cameras around the facility to capture proof of the abuse. While monitoring the feeds, Max sees Juno and Dr. Sabian leading a resident toward the basement, accompanied by a hooded figure with a dog. He rushes to the basement and hears terrified screams. He is spotted by the dog and flees back to his room. Inside his room, he is shocked to find the woman from the video chat waiting for him in person. She reiterates the government conspiracy theory and begs for his help. However, their meeting is cut short when the deranged old man from the fourth floor suddenly appears and attacks them. Max is knocked unconscious during the struggle. Max wakes up to Dr. Sabian standing over him, about to push a needle into his eye, but then realizes he is waking from a dream or a hallucination. When he fully regains consciousness, Juno tells him that a patient escaped from the fourth floor and tried to harm him. She insists that Dr. Sabian needs to examine him thoroughly. Sensing immediate danger, Max waits for Juno to leave and then climbs out the window, escaping the facility entirely. Max calls his foster parents, who pick him up and take him back to their home. There, he is introduced to two new foster sisters, Tessa and Jackie. While recovering at home, his foster mother comforts him and strangely repeats the exact same phrase Norma used, "A heart knows a heart." When Max questions her about it, she claims a friend used to say it but can't remember who. Suspicious, Max waits for his parents to leave and then asks the new foster girls if they have seen Norma or the trinkets before. The girls reveal that they have seen a similar trinket in a secret place within the house. The girls lead Max to a hidden room behind a wardrobe. Inside, Max finds a shrine filled with trinkets identical to Norma's and an altar dedicated to Dea, the Roman goddess of youth. He also finds a stack of old photo albums. Flipping through them, he sees photos dating back to 1997. In every photo, the residents of the home, including his foster parents, Lou and Lei, appear exactly the same age as they are now. However, in each group photo, there is a different young person sitting in a wheelchair, dressed in white. Max frantically searches through the albums until he reaches the year 2009. There, in the group photo, the person in the wheelchair is his brother, Luke. Max realizes with horror that Luke did not commit suicide. He has been a prisoner at the home for over a decade. The old man on the 4th floor who kept trying to approach him was actually Luke, aged prematurely and trying to communicate. Driven by the shocking revelation that his brother is alive, Max rushes out of the house and returns to the retirement home. He breaks down the doors to the 4th floor and locates the elderly man who had attacked him earlier. Max approaches him gently and confirms that this frail, aged figure is indeed Luke. Luke breaks down in tears as Max shows him his thicker-than-blood tattoo, a symbol of their bond. Max apologizes for not realizing the truth sooner and promises to get them both out. Max shows Luke the photo from the album and asks about the other people in white suits. Luke explains that the other patients in the room are the victims from the photos, all of whom have been rapidly aged. Before they can make their escape, Max is ambushed by Lei, who injects him with a sedative, knocking him unconscious. Max wakes up to a surreal scene. He is dressed in a white suit, bound in a wheelchair, and surrounded by all the residents of the home, including his foster parents. They are celebrating and taking group photos, treating Max as the guest of honor. Lou steps forward and proposes a toast, congratulating everyone on their performance. Max is confused, but the horrifying truth is finally revealed to him. The entire scenario, the government conspiracy stories, the woman with the distorted face online, the investigation was an elaborate game designed to torment Max. The residents explain that they get bored living for so long, so they create complex dramas to play with their victims before consuming them. The woman from the chat is revealed to be Dr. Sabian's wife, Gretchen, another member of the cult. They are worshippers of Dea, the goddess of youth, and they are not ordinary elderly people. Dr. Sabian explains the biological mechanism behind their longevity. He claims that inside the human right eye, there is a sac containing nectar, which is the source of youth. As humans age, this nectar diminishes. However, the cult members have been extracting this fluid from the eyes of young foster children, supplied by Max's foster parents, to maintain their own youth indefinitely. They reveal they are all over 100 years old. Lou is 128, and Max's parents are 109. They have been feeding on Max's honey slowly each night, which caused his nightmares, but now they intend to drain him completely. Max threatens to kill them all, but Sabian dismisses him, stating that once the procedure is done, Max will be as weak as a centenarian. The cult members begin to chant and touch each other in a ritualistic frenzy as Dr. Sabian uses a speculum to pry Max's eye open. He inserts a needle and extracts the glowing nectar, draining Max of his life force. The scene shifts to Max, now an old, frail man confined to a wheelchair on the 4th floor. Lou enters the room to taunt him one last time. He admits that Norma was the only one who felt guilty. She genuinely liked Max and wanted to save him, which is why the cult murdered her. Lou tells Max to rest because they will continue to harvest from him, then leaves him to rot with the others. Once they are alone, Luke begins to move. He breaks a piece of metal spoke from his wheelchair wheel. He moves around the room to the other comatose victims, gently kissing their foreheads and extracting whatever remaining nectar they have. Finally, he extracts his own nectar. He brings the accumulated fluid to Max and forces him to drink it. The nectar has an immediate and powerful effect. Max's youth and strength return instantly, amplified by the concentrated dose. Outside, a violent storm begins to rage, mirroring Max's fury. When Juno enters the room to check on the prisoners, she is shocked to find the wheelchairs empty. Max, now fully restored and brimming with rage, attacks her, brutally killing her. Armed with an axe and a hammer, Max begins a rampage through the facility. He hunts down the cult members one by one. He finds Lei and bludgeons him to death with the hammer. He kills the other residents who participated in his torture, showing no mercy. Lou, terrified, hides inside a wardrobe and prays to Dea, but Max finds him and drags him out. Max drags Lou into the main hall. Dr. Sabian appears and fires his gun at Max, but Max uses Lou as a human shield, and Lou takes the bullets, dying instantly. Max then charges at Sabian, snapping his wrist and beating him to death. He then finds Gretchen, the woman who tricked him online, and kills her by slamming her through a window. Max's foster parents attempt to flee the carnage, running out into the storm. However, the hurricane force winds rip the roof off a nearby structure, and the debris crashes down on them, crushing them to death instantly. With the cult destroyed, Max returns to the body of Lou. He forces the dead man's eyes open and whispers, "I'm taking it all back." The scene fades and reopens with Max walking out of the front doors of the home. He is accompanied by Luke and the other victims from the 4th floor. Having reclaimed the nectar from their tormentors, they have regained enough strength to walk and leave the cursed place behind forever.